Hello and welcome to the garage. In this video, we are going to cover vehicle maintenance and specifically electric vehicle maintenance. As a reference, however, we're going to cover internal combustion engine maintenance for both gas and diesel vehicles. This will give you a reference to see the difference between an ICE engine, internal combustion engine, and an electric vehicle or EV. We are going to cover all of the items that are required to do service on both ICE and EV vehicles. All this stuff sitting behind me here is what's required to do ICE vehicle maintenance. This is the everyday, regular, have to do on a periodic basis type of maintenance. This maintenance has to be done, otherwise it shortens the life of your ICE vehicle. So let's get into it. So right behind me here is an arrangement of stuff. Of course, you need tools. Basic tools, yes. This is a crescent wrench. This is a channel lock. It's used for grabbing things, perhaps the oil filter. You probably need a larger one or an oil filter wrench. We'll show you that. Of course, you probably need some screwdrivers. This is a number 2 Phillips. Yep, you need a flashlight, of course. As you can see here, the vehicle manufacturers try to put all of the places to put fluids in and remove fluids in a relatively easy place. However, there are some ICE vehicles where you need to actually jack up the engine to change the oil. Some don't even have drain plugs, and you actually have to suck the oil out of it. Those are usually high-dollar vehicles, and an oil change may be $10,000 on some of the more exotic vehicles. However, on your everyday go-to-work type of vehicle, the manufacturers have placed the fillers, what's called a dipstick to actually check fluid levels, and usually drain plugs in a place where you can actually get to it should you decide to do your own maintenance. Now let's talk a little bit about your own maintenance. Of course, you need the tools, and you're going to need some expertise to know exactly what to do. I'm sure there's a bunch of YouTube videos that you can follow to figure out how to change oil and different fluids in vehicles, and you can follow them and DIY it. But there's one fact. You have a fluid in your ICE engine, and typically the biggest fluid is the engine oil. And this gets used up after a period of time due to wear inside of the engine and the failure of the viscosity of the oil itself. So it must be changed. If you're not driving your vehicle much, it builds up moisture in the crankcase, and you either have to run it, and perhaps that may cause trouble. So what is involved for you to change your own engine oil? So first thing you're going to need, besides you're going to need a funnel to put the fluids back into the vehicle, you're going to need some kind of a catch basin. Now I got this at the local auto parts store. It's actually like a gallon, I think it'll hold 4 or 5 gallons maybe. It's got a handle. It actually has a place to drain the oil into, or fluids, and it has a little drain here that you can unscrew to allow the fluids to go inside of this container. And then once this is secured back on here, you can then carry it off to the auto parts store again and take it to their reclamation bin and dump all your oil out. So you have to take this once it's full of oil and you put oil in your car and you got it operational again, you need to take this back to the auto parts store. Find a place in the vehicle, safe, it's not going to fly around, and take it back to the auto parts store. Now most auto parts stores have some big giant 10,000 gallon bin where you pour your used engine oil. Little fun fact, most of that engine oil is filtered, sent off to the harbor, and used as diesel number 3 to be burned in freighters. Kind of weird, but the pistons and the compression is so large in those big vessels that engine oil ignites just as if it's diesel fuel. So all your engine oil ends up going up into the atmosphere anyway. So you reclaim it, and you must have something like this. Of course, you can dump it out in some kind of pan and transfer it to bottles, haul it to the reclamation area. Engine oil is a very toxic substance, so there's no way that you can pour it out on the ground and or pour it in some place that you don't know. You can't even throw it in a trash can, and I believe there's laws preventing that. So you must dispose of used engine oil. So if you want to do it yourself, that's on the map. After you change your engine oil, internal combustion engines usually have, for most of them, have what's called an oil filter. This is usually a device that looks very much like this. It is it's got a gasket, and you must unscrew the old one, and it's going to drip all over the place and get all over the garage or the driveway or wherever you're changing the oil, unless you're careful. And this filter then has threads and screws back onto the engine. You're a lucky person if your vehicle has this located in a place that's easy to get to. Some of them are located way up underneath the vehicle, and you either need to climb underneath or stick your hand way down to the side to unscrew it and do your oil filter change. This has a specific life. You need to change it. Most people, if they're doing it themselves, will usually change the oil filter at the same time they do the oil. Serious messy job. I've done lots of it. Once you change your oil and you change your filter, you need to clean up. Put the drain plug back onto the vehicle. You need to clean up because the oil will get everywhere and it'll continue to drip off of whatever you spilt it on. So once you get that cleaned up, now it's time to put new oil back in. So generally, if you look at this picture, you'll notice that most oil filters are located on the top of the engine. Some are on the side, but they're usually marked with a cap that indicates the location to put your engine oil. You then have to use, I usually use some form of a funnel like this, because generally when you start pouring the oil, it's everywhere. So a funnel is great. You stick it into your filler on your ICE engine. You then get your oil, which usually now used to come in quart size, but now comes in this gallon size of 4 quarts. So, and that's roughly 4 liters. And so then you take your engine oil and pour it into your funnel carefully, right? It's heavy, and you pour it in, but you don't want to pour too much. The dipstick located there on the top of the engine, after you pour what you think is about the right amount, you have to let the oil go all the way through the engine down to the engine sump before you can actually measure the level. If you've warmed up your engine prior to doing all this, the oil will get there faster, but you got to let it get there. Usually the oil located in this container is cool, and it's higher viscosity, and it takes that much longer to get down where you can actually measure the level. If you should overfill, and this happens by not paying attention for DIYers, what happens is you've got to let some of the oil out because you really can't let your vehicle run with high oil level. It will cause trouble. So now once you put your new oil in, you got to clean up your funnel and then do the last cleanups. The oil is essentially changed in your vehicle. Again, it's a seriously messy job. Of course, you need to wear some gloves. Gloves are always good when you're working on an ICE vehicle that's usually messy. Typical to an ICE vehicle, it always has some form of leak. The older it gets, you'll see dust accumulating all over it. And what that is oil has seeped out of the gaskets and on the side, and then the normal road dust sticks to it. So when you see your ICE engine, it'll have a layer of dust, which means that you have oil weeping out of the seals. And this is normal for ICE engine, but it's, again, a very seriously dirty job. So now once you change your oil in your car, now you've got to do a couple other things. So there's another thing in an ICE engine, and that's called the radiator. That's that big giant thing up front in the ICE engine. This particular device is used to keep the engine cool since all that gasoline is exploding in the cylinders. 80 cents of every one of your dollars goes out of your car in heat, and it goes through the radiator. Now, depending upon how old your car is, the radiator needs to be checked. The new modern cars actually have what's called a radiator reservoir and has some kind of level in there. You want to make sure that it's between the minimum and the maximum, and you want to check it when it's cool, because when that engine heats up, so does the fluid, and the level will actually come up. You just use some form of coolant. Now, of course, most coolant, they do have some that are not toxic, but if your dog or cat or something should drink it, it is seriously toxic to them, and they can suffer big trouble with that. And you want to make sure that you store it away from everybody and your children for that matter. So carefully put it in, set it between the lines, and you should be good. So that's your radiator. Sometimes when it's cold out, and those of you who live in warm climates generally don't have this problem, there's an additive which is isopropyl alcohol that you add to your fuel to dry up the moisture. Moisture gets in the fuel either from its transport or condensation in a tank, or maybe you don't drive your vehicle enough and that condensation will result in water in the fuel. And you need to install a product like this. This is an added thing. You install it and it mixes with the water to make it flammable. So you'll need that. Last but not least is part of your, or not last actually, another thing you need to check is your brake reservoir. Now, most vehicles these days have hydraulic brakes, and located right here in this picture, you'll see that it's actually the hydraulic reservoir. Now, generally you don't need to open it up. You can actually look on the side. It usually is clear and you can see the fluid level, and you want to make sure it's between the minimum and maximum. Now, if you do need to add brake fluid, again, this product is caustic as heck. If you get it on your paint, it will eat your paint. It's like paint remover. So you got to be really careful, and don't get it on your clothes because it'll eat that. So brake fluid needs to be added, and you got to be careful and keep it away from everybody. And of the general maintenance category, you're going to need to check your windshield washer fluid. Now, the windshield washer fluid is common on most vehicles in the 20th century. It's used with a little motorized sprayer. When you use your windshield wipers in your car, you can press a button and it'll squirt on the window and you wash the bugs and dirt off of it. You'll need to make sure that the windshield washer bottle, and you can see that here in this picture, you want to make sure that your windshield washer is full. You never know that you're going to need it to wash dirt and bugs off of your window. So this is windshield washer fluid. By the way, you can almost drink this. This is usually got some soap and stuff in it, but it won't kill you. But store it away from everybody. So that is the basic maintenance. Now, with an ICE engine, there is additional maintenance that's usually not on a regular basis. Most of the new modern engines have overhead cams, and these cams actually rotate and push valves down as the cylinders go. What it has is a belt that runs from the crankshaft down below, running up inside, around the cam shaft, and back down to the crankshaft. Now, as the crankshaft rotates, it rotates the camshaft, right? And so what happens is that this belt is very critical because it pushes the valves down at the right time. As the piston comes up, if the valve is down and the piston comes up, you end up with thousands of dollars worth of damage in your vehicle. So one of the things recommended for most ICE engines is to have this timing chain, is what it's called, replaced. That's several $100s, and that's usually at 80 or 90,000 miles. So that is a maintenance item. And there's a bunch of them depending upon your vehicle. So the bottom line is, with an ICE engine, you may buy your ICE car for X number of dollars, but maintenance is required to keep that vehicle in tip-top shape. And that results in spending more money to do just that. Do you guys remember the inkjet printer? Yeah, I think we all did when they first came out. They were $30, and you thought, gee whiz, this is great, a printer for $30. Well, that was all good until you paid $50 for the ink cartridge that actually spit the ink onto the paper. and had found out that they gave you a device for $30 so you could spend $50 worth of ink every time you need it. Now that is a marketing scheme if I haven't seen one before. So an ICE engine, it's similar to the printer. You buy an ICE engine. If you don't count the cost of the fuel, which is substantial, and you count the cost of the additional maintenance, this is money that you could be using for a new couch or something else you need in the house. So let's talk a little bit about what I need for my electric vehicle. So let's see, we got all this stuff here. Now, just so you know that I'm not crazy, take a look in the Tesla manual and see what maintenance is required on a regular basis. You'll find that there's no regularly scheduled maintenance in a Tesla. But there is one item that you have to put in your Tesla, and here it is. Yep, you've seen this before. This is windshield washer fluid. The Tesla has windshield wipers just like an ICE car, and you need to keep that reservoir full to keep the bugs and dirt off of your window. The EV, essentially designed for no maintenance. Yeah, if you got a lead foot, you're going to need tires. The brakes aren't ever used really on a general basis. They're there in case you need them. You use regenerative braking to stop and slow down. So there you have it. EV maintenance or ICE maintenance, you choose. And for you ICE drivers, it gives you a little insight exactly what an EV will do for you and your family. No maintenance. You put electricity in it and you drive it. You don't have to do all of this kind of stuff on your vehicle. Life is busy. We got a lot of stuff to do, and the last thing you want to think about is a vehicle that requires regular maintenance. However, an electric vehicle really truly doesn't require any maintenance. You put in some windshield washer fluid and you're good to go. Anybody can learn to pour this into the hatch to fill up the windshield washer fluid. No mechanics required. If you like this video, I'd appreciate you click the like. And not to miss any episodes going forward, go ahead and click the subscribe. And don't forget to click the little bell icon. That will alert you next time one of my videos are posted. If you'd like to buy yourself a Tesla, the referral link shown here at the bottom of the screen will get you 1,000 miles or 1,500 kilometers of free supercharging. This code is good worldwide. Thank you for watching. I'll look for you again and take care.